Hi everyone, welcome to Tom's Manshed. Okay, so first off, this video is going to be of absolutely no interest to the vast majority of subscribers and viewers. It's very specialised. It's just about fitting a radiator cooling fan to my kit car, a Grinnall Scorpion. So, like I say, it's going to only be of interest to Grinnall Scorpion owners, or maybe even K1100 BMW bike owners, which the engine came from. But I will be back with my normal reviews. I've got a repair on the Erbauer light that I reviewed 2 years ago, a common fault that develops on them. I've got how to sort that out very easily and very cheaply. And I've got a review that I mentioned recently on the terrible service from the RAC I've had. But like I said, this is just about fitting this motor, so if it's of no interest, turn off now. Now, I am going to put links to all the Scorpion owners who will be interested. I'm going to put links below to all the parts I bought, either the website that I bought the part off, or the actual item on Amazon. Now, the Amazon links will be affiliated links, which means I get paid a very small commission if you buy something from that browsing session. Once you've clicked the link, it's only a few pennies, but it keeps the channel going. And I will put the red line underneath, so you can all be itemised which bit of the video is which, so you can zoom to whichever bit and skip any bits you're not interested in. There will be lots of waffling very soon. I'll be telling you why I needed this fan, and it's a lot longer. It goes into great depth, so it's probably, like I say, totally boring to the vast majority of viewers, but I hope there's going to be some valid information in there for you Scorpion owners. Also at the end, after I fitted the fan, I do mention the battery and some extra switches I've rigged up and what they do. So stay tuned to the end on them. And for all my regular viewers, I will be back very soon with one of my normal reviews. So without further ado, let's get into why I actually needed this fan. Okay, a bit of background first. Last Friday, it's now Thursday, last Friday, the plan was to drive from here in Lancashire to the Premier Inn at Mansfield, meet up with a couple of guys there, Stan and John, in their Scorpions, and two Johns, Stan and two Johns. And on the Saturday, have a drive round, run out on the Saturday, and then Sunday go to a car show at Chatsworth House. So everything was booked. I booked the cheapest form of accommodation where you don't get your money back if you cancel. All the meal deals, 2 evening meal deals, 2 breakfast meal deals, everything all ready to go. Did all the checks on the Scorpion, the usual checks, checked the oil, tyre pressures, water and everything. Set off about 1:30. Supposed to be a 2.5 hour journey. It turned out 3.5 hours to where I broke down, which was on the motorway, surrounded by trucks, red hot, chock-a-block traffic. I think I've got a video, put a bit of a video here, and this is the second of the 2 traffic jams I was in. So you can see here, it's absolutely surrounded. So it was like that for about an hour, moving along very slowly, and I heard a horrible squeal at the front of the car, like a really, and I knew immediately what it was. There's only one moving part at the front of the car, and that's the radiator fan, which is right at the front. And I knew I'm probably going to be in trouble, because if the radiator fan has gone and you're in static traffic, surrounded by red hot trucks on a red hot day, it's going to start overheating. And sure enough, the temperature gauge started drifting up to full. The red light came on the instrument cluster, and steam started coming into the cabin. So luckily I was near a junction 33 on the M1 at Rotherham, and I managed to just pull off at the junction, and just round the corner is a little industrial estate with a Halfords, a Dunelm mill and a pound stretcher. Pulled into there, took the nose cone off, took the tail cone off, all the stuff in the back was wet, there was sort of steam everywhere. So, well, first of all, I reported it as a breakdown to RAC. Now, I told them, I says, look, there's no point in sending a little van. It's going to need recovery. The motor has seized up. It was locked solid. I couldn't turn it. And I daren't risk running it without the cooling motor. I'm just going to overheat again on a motorway in static traffic or whatever. So I'm going to need recovery. I explained the situation. It's an open top car with no roof. There's no facilities where I'd parked. The industrial estate gate gets locked at 8 o'clock. This is 5:30 now. And explained the situation. I was on my own, middle of nowhere, in an open top car, open to the elements. So the guy says, I'll prioritise it. And to cut a long story short, because I'm going to do a video about this, how terrible the service is, I was there for over 7 hours, nearly 8 hours, till 1:45 in the morning from 5:30, waiting for the RAC to come and recover me, and they never even turned up. The service was absolutely diabolical. But like I said, that's irrelevant to all this, but just a bit of background and a bit of waffling. So what this video is about is sourcing a new radiator fan and fitting it. Now, this is mine. It's a 1997 Scorpion, and it uses the K1100 engine. Now, I had to take my radiator out as well. So if you haven't seen the radiator, that's it. I had to take the radiator out to get the fan off because of the way it's fitted, the bobbins there, and I'll show you when I'm reinstalling it, and a way of altering the mount of the fan so that I won't need to remove the rad just to change the fan in future. But when I got home, and like I said, I watched the other video to explain how I actually got home. When I got home, I took it off, and you can see on here, you can see that all the points all burnt out. Not the points, when we're talking about the brushes. You can see how black all the brushes are here, and the other side. So it looks like the brushes had worn away totally without me knowing, and then, I don't know, fused out on there, got red hot or whatever, and totally melted it. So that's the existing motor. Now, you've a few different options when you want to get one of these. So I'll show you now online some of the options that you've got and the ones I went for. So first of all, I looked at eBay just to see what there was, and I just typed in BMW K1100 fan, and I tried a few different words as well, searching. And you can see here now, this is the one I went for, but not through eBay. This is from Motorworks, the same, but I'll show you that in a minute. But there's a couple of rads on here. There's this one here, the same, but you know, it wants 75 quid, and it's a used one. You don't know how much life is left in that. So I was reluctant to get a used one. If that's all that was available, I'd obviously have to, but that is it. You see, there's nothing else coming up. That's from Italy. God knows, it looks like a lash up sort of job, that. But yeah, so there's nothing really there, as you can see. So I went on Motorworks, which is a specialist BMW motorcycle parts thing. I've used them many times for oil filters and things like that. And again, I did K1100 fan. Now, there's these used ones here. As you can see, used. I looked at the model fitments on these, and they were from different F models and things like that. So I rung them up anyway, and he said we do just the motor here. And you can see this motor. It's a Bosch cooling fan motor. And that, as you can see, that is exactly the same as the one I had fitted. Also, they do this one here, which is a full assembly, including a metal frame, aluminium frame there instead of the plastic one, for 144 plus postage. So that's that, and you can see it's a much bigger diameter motor. It's more like a pancake style motor. Now whether it's brushless or not, I don't know, but that's the one I went for. So I've ordered that, and it's arrived today. I'll show you that in the flesh in a minute. And I'm also going to fettle up the old one, the old assembly, and keep that as a spare. It'll fit under there. Now I dare say I'll never need it if it lasts as long as this one has. Like I say, it's a 26-year-old car. It'll outlast me, hopefully, but you never know. If you're in convoy with a few other friends, or maybe another Euro trip or anything like that, there's space for it under the nose cone. And if I carry a spare, that you've got a spare for any of your mates. So I managed to get one of these motors. As you can see there, it's 75 plus postage. It'd have been about 6, so it'd have been, approaching 80 quid, over 80 quid from Motorworks. I managed to get one from these guys here, just down the road from me in Preston, Ribblesdale Auto Electrics. Now, they were great. I went in yesterday, it's Thursday today. He measured it all and everything, and he says, oh, it looks like we've got one here, and it's got like a case on it, but it looks like the case will come off, and it looks exactly the same. Again, I'll show you in a second. And that was only 48 quid. He ordered that yesterday, and he rang me up this morning. It's arrived, and I've just been down and picked it up. So that was only 48 quid. Exactly the same as that one I just showed you on the Motorworks fan site. This one here on Motorworks, this 192 quid one, model fitment, that's for F and G series, totally different part. So yeah, so here's mine, and as you can see, the new motor that arrived today, and I'll put details, I'll put them below now on this motor, all the details, and I'll also put them in the description underneath the video at the end anyway. But that's the one he ordered yesterday, it's just arrived today, and that plastic case does come off. I'll show you that when I'm fitting it to this. Now, the way these are attached is to the plastic framework. It's just these two spring clips here. Now, I took these off the other day when I got home, and I forgot how I put them. So I just put a post in on the Grinnall forum, the Grinnall Facebook group, and I got an instant response off Thomas and Paul. So thanks, Thomas and Paul. I was asking what position they go in, and that's how they go. So the hook over bit goes over the plastic here, and then the other bit, it's hard to see on here, goes under there, and it hooks behind the motor and drags it into this framework. You just pop them off and that whole assembly comes out. Now, it can be quite stiff. I've sort of sanded mine and greased it to put it back easy to show you, but it is quite stiff to pull out, particularly if there's a bit of scale or rust around it. And this fan is mounted on here. It's just a push fit, and it looks like there's a bit of sort of like doming over there, whether they've sort of hit it just to open it out, I don't know. But evidently, to get that out, once you've taken it out of its shroud, you just hold the fan, support the blades above a vise, and tap that out with a punch. Again, I'll film me doing that live and show how easily or not it comes out. Once you've got that off, you can take this black plastic case off, put the fan back on that motor shaft. They recommend gluing it on as well. I'm hoping it'll be quite a tight push fit and glue on, and then putting it all back together again. And then, like I say, once I've done that and I've got that, I'm just going to carry it as a spare under the nose cone. But the one that arrived today from Motorworks is this one. And this is the 144 quid one. And as you can see, the motor is a much different design. It's a much wider and doesn't stick out this. So I'm hoping it's brushless, but I'm not convinced it is, because as I spin the fan, don't know whether you can hear that, it's as if there's like some brushes making contact with a commutator, but I don't know. But again, I will put all the details, all the model numbers and that. This is off Motorworks webpage. In fact, I'll just put the link to Motorworks because it's on there. But that's the actual details if you want to sort of freeze frame that. Made in Italy. So how less or more efficient or whatever than the other. If it lasts as long as the other 25 years, it'll outlast me, so I'll be happy at that. So like I said, that's the one I'll be putting on. When I took it off, the radiator, there's the bobbin. I'm going to be putting some new ones on. I've ordered some from. That split off. I don't know what I've done with it again. I had it round here somewhere. But there's a little bracket, the front bracket with the hole on it, had actually snapped off, and the fan assembly was able to move around and knock about. So that wouldn't have done the motor any good, going over a bump and sort of like moving. So I'm going to rig an aluminium bracket up. I did take it somewhere, asked if they could aluminium weld it back on, but he didn't like doing it because it's, as you can see, it's wafer thin. Being near a radiator, he didn't want to damage the rad. With that new part as well, that new fan, you get this little one of these type electrical connectors, which is quite good. But I think I'm going to put an XT60, which is a model radio control model aircraft. I've got loads of them. Solder one of them plugs on. I can just unplug and plug it in. And another thing I'm going to put on, again they're in the garage, is an indicating LED for the dash, so that when the fan kicks in, an LED comes on, and that'll tell me when I'm in a traffic jam if the fan has kicked in, which isn't always easy to hear if you're in a noisy environment. Obviously it won't tell me if the motor is turning, but it'll tell me that the sensor has worked and sent a signal for the fan to come on. So I'll put a little red LED. Again, just bought them. I'll put a link to them below when I'm doing it. So yeah, quite a lot of waffling on there, but that was the background of it. So I'm now going to put the radiator back on. Bought the antifreeze today as well. Fill it all up, show you any other brackets I make, and show you the install of the fan. So let's get on to that now. Okay, so you'll have to excuse the working gear. I'm in the process now. We're nearly finished the job, and I'm in the process of finding somewhere to mount this as a spare under the car. But I thought I'd squeeze this in somewhere. I don't know which bit of the video I'm going to squeeze it in. But I wanted you, before I mount it, I wanted you to show the reason I think that this one packed up. Now, if you look on the new one, if you can see, that's the brush there that I'm pulling back. And if you have a look at the length of it, it's pretty long. That's the new one. And as you pull it back, I want to do this facing the camera, but as I'm pulling it back, you can see that bracket there, that black bracket where it goes through. That's all that keeps it in position. Now the little bit of movement I've got on it, with it being brand new, it's still staying in that bracket. Okay, it's not a brilliant design if you ask me, but that's the only movement I've got, and it's staying in that bracket. But if you see the old one, now the old one, I've got all that movement because it's so worn down. You can see the brush there, how length it is. It's still quite a lot of brush, if you ask me, left. But once it gets to that worn down, this bit here where my thumb is pushing it, this bracket here, you can see it can easily, this bracket here, it can easily pop right out. Can you see there? It's popped out of its hole. So when the brush is brand new, that is there, and you've got sort of this much movement, and it's still in its slot. But mine had gone right down there, and that's now totally out of its slot, and there is nothing to hold that in situ, and it can move around like this. And I reckon it's that has it's come out of position as I've been driving along and squirreled its way around and jammed on the commutator. Like I say, it was a squealing noise it made. So it's worth checking your brushes. It's dead easy to do. But that cap just pushes on with them 4 clips there, so you've just got to squeeze them in and pull it off. And then just check the length of your brushes. And if you see that bracket coming out of its little slot, I would get another motor. And like I say, 48 quid from the place in Preston. So like I say, I just thought I'd squeeze that in the video now, and I'm going to get back onto getting it installed. Now the new one is in, I'll be showing you that soon. I'm just going to mount this as a spare on the car, so I'm back to work. So as you can see, my vice is in the most inaccessible position in my garage. So I'm doing this live with you. So I've just got it there, dangling in there, with the top of the vice supporting the fan. I'm going to try and punch this motor out now. Movement seems to be going through okay. Oops. There's the okay, so we've got the fan off, the old one. Now the trouble is, if you look at the shaft of the old one, it's quite sort of like lumpy and rusty and maybe a bit fatter. It may even have like some sort of shim over it or whatever, because that, as you saw, was a tight fit in the fan blade. But the new one is a very slack fit in it. So what I've done, I've made a tiny shim out of this stuff. Now this is something I got yesterday with some little battery management boards for another project I'm doing, and I didn't think I'd have any use for this. But I have already, but it's very thin nickel strip. So ideally something that length, an inch length, would have been good to put around the whole motor shaft. But I've already got a bit in there. You can just about see the sort of shim in there, and I'm going to glue it on. So before it sets, I'm going to get this epoxy. In this new motor, there's 2 like little notches there, so don't know what they're for. If this flange sticking out the top, if that bit had have been a bit wider, I could have drilled it through there and put a pin, but I'm going to get this on here now. I'm going to tap it on until the end of the shaft is just peeping out. It's pushed a bit of the shim through with it. I'm just going to put another blob over the top. So it seems pretty firm on there now, so with that shim in it and glued on the shaft and that blob of epoxy on it, we should be alright. You can see it feels quite stiff. So I mentioned these earlier on, showed you a little picture. They're a set of tiny LED indicator lamps. Again, I'll show you up here on Amazon. The ones you can see there, they're only $8.99 for all these. So that's what you get. You even get a little tiny packet of O-rings to go over them, which I've already lost somewhere in the garage, but I can't find it at the moment. But you can see they're in various colours. There's 5 different colours, 2 of each. Red, blue, yellow, green and white. And I tried them all. I like the green one the best, so I've decided on going for a green one, and I've just mounted it, as you'll see in a second, just on the plastic where the steering wheel switches are. I have mounted, and I'll show you at the very, very end of this video, some lovely illuminated switches down on the bottom right to control my sat-nav, my amplified aerial for the radio in the boot, the radio, yeah, I put a little radio in it, and a USB supply in the boot as well. Again, very, very end of this video, I'll show you them. But it's a lot easier drilling that plastic of the near the steering wheel. So I decided to go on a green one, any colour you like, and I've wired that into the circuit for the fan. Now, as I said before, it doesn't tell me whether the fan is turning, so even with a dud motor this would come on, but at least it does give me an indication that the fan is getting a signal to come on. So it tells me the temperature sensor on the engine is working and the wiring is fine to the fan. So when I'm stuck in heavy traffic now and I can't hear it, usually you can hear it, but if it's a noisy environment or I've got my helmet on or whatever, I can see a little light illuminate on the dash and I know at least I'm getting power to the fan. So let's go ahead and see how I fitted that now. So I've just drilled a 6mm hole there in that part of the dash, and I've soldered, as you see, heat shrunk extension wires onto the wires you get with the LED, and I've got them tied to this fiberglass rod wire puller. That's it, one of these. There's hundreds of them on Amazon and eBay. One of these sort of cable access, screw together these little fiberglass rods. I've used it on loads of stuff, putting the dash cam in the car and everything. So I'm just pulling that through now. So that's that. And obviously I'm going to tuck all this wire away properly and clip it in place, and that will go to, where are we? To this, the plug feeding the fan. I'm going to replace that with an XT60 plug. Okay, so this is the existing plug for the fan. I'm going to snip that off. I'll do that now. Snip it this side of these joints. And I'm assuming brown is live and purple is neutral. And I'm going to wire that to these XT60 plugs, which are the ones I use for my model aircraft batteries. They're a nice hefty plug, readily available, fit together great like that. Plenty of current capacity for this. And I'm going to put one of these plugs, one on the spare fan, one on the fan I'll be using, one on here, and then they're easily interchangeable. And I'm going to be using this. Check the link above, the card above right now, for a review on this soldering iron. Absolutely fantastic. It's called a pine cell. Gets hot almost instantly. You can run it off a model aircraft battery pack. Doesn't even have to be this hefty. And you just connect it with a barrel socket. I don't know whether you can see the reading in the daylight there, but it's going up in temperature now. It's reached 200, it's reached 300 now, and that's it. 350 I've got it set at, so that's how quick it heats up to its operating temperature. So I'm going to solder them. I won't film me doing it, but I'll show you it once it's in place. Okay, so I've got it all, the wire from the little indicator lamp that I've just put in. Got that tie wrapped here, running along the front here, and that is wired into here. And as you can see, I put heat shrink on both parts of that. So that's the female side. The power supply to the fan, and the LED. And I mentioned before I was assuming brown was live. Well, I assumed wrong. I thought I can check it by using my multimeter. So I put the multimeter to an earth here and tested for continuity. And the brown is actually earth. I was getting continuity between the chassis, which is negative, and that. So that's obviously earth. And the purple wire is live. So that's worth remembering. So I'm going to tie wrap this up here now, around this bit of the chassis, and then I'm going to put 2 of them plugs on the fan I'll be using and the spare fan. So when I've come to put the new motor, because the fan's glued on now, when I come to put it in this frame, I found as I pushed it in, it was quite loose in the frame. The clips were holding it, but there was still a bit of play. So what I've done is wrap some tape round it. I've used Kapton tape because that's heat proof, and if this gets quite warm it won't affect the tape, but any tape would do, a bit of gaffer tape or whatever, just to increase the circumference of midges. It is the same motor, but it was quite a loose fit, so as we push it in here now, it's quite a tight fit. So I'm going to put it in and get the 2 clips on, then I'm going to rig the wire up to this and put the XT60 plug on it. This is the brand new one, which will be going on the radiator behind here, and I've left the plug that comes with it, I've left that on, the male and female plug, and I've put the XT60 just on a little adapter there. The reason being, I didn't really want to snip that off with a brand new fan that's probably got a year's warranty, because if it did for any reason break down in the 12 months, often if you send it back they say, oh, you've invalidated your warranty because you've snipped the original plug off. So I've still got the original plug there, and that'll stay on there permanently. I've just wrapped it in tape to keep any water out. But again, heat shrink round the pins, so there's no chance of anything shorting. And like I say, that will go at the back of the radiator behind here. So all I'm waiting for now is the bobbins to come from Amazon. Should be here today, anytime before 10. It's looking like it's going to be a late delivery of this. Get them on, then I can get the radiator in and the new fan in, but everything else is wired up. Still going to make a little bracket to support the top of the rad, but I'm not sure how that's going to go until I get the radiator in place. So far so good, so I'll catch you once these bobbins have arrived and we've got the radiator in. So that was as much as I could do on the first day while I awaited them bobbins, and they didn't come till quite late. So I packed it in for that day. Let's resume now on the day after, and again, as you can see, and as I mentioned, it is pouring down again. What was it, about 4th, 5th of August 2023. We've had a fantastic May and June, an awful July, and so far August. So it was raining again. I was trying to do this between showers. So the radiator, didn't actually film sort of actually putting it in, but there's new bobbins on it now, as you can see, and it's all slid in place with the fan on. And like I say, I will show you it in place and the light coming on and temperature tests and everything. But now we're at the stage of initially filling it and flushing it out. Well, let's have a look at that now. Okay, it's the following day now. We're about to flush it out, fit the antifreeze and give it a test run. As you can see, it's been pretty raining overnight, so everything's wet to lie down on. So I'm just going to give it a flush through here. I've got the front hose disconnected at the bottom right hand side. I've just enlarged that the fiberglass shroud around the radiator just to get a bit better access. I'll show you that shortly. That's pumping out the radiator now. Try it going that way. That's coming out of the hose now. So as you can see, the hose is going, I've got it curled round and it's going that way. And that's gushing out of the bottom hose now, you can see. When it went the other way, it came out the bottom of the radiator. So you can see it coming out of there now. So I'm going to turn the water off and then flush it from this end. Okay, we've got the hose pipe down that end now. Just see the hose pipe there in the middle, down the other end now. I'll just turn the water on. So to get better access to this bottom hose, I've just cut a chunk out of this bottom fiberglass shroud, as you can see. And now I can actually see the Jubilee clip when it goes on there. So I'm going to put that on there now and tighten it up. I'm just going to fill it with water first, give it a run, and then drain it again and put the antifreeze in. By the way, this was what I cut the fiberglass with. Multi-purpose tool, another one of Lidl's. Check the tab above for a full review of this. Again, if you haven't got one of these multi-purpose tools, they are really handy for various things. Okay, this is just 10 minutes after that last filming, and I don't know what you can hear, but that's the weather at the moment. Absolutely pouring it down again. I'm absolutely sick of this British weather. This is 5th, is it? 5th of August or whatever, 2023. Lovely yesterday, dry all day, pouring down again today for the umpteenth time. Yeah, great, this British summer, isn't it, so far? So, yeah, we got it all filled up with water and running. And we'll just see now the temperature you see on the needle when the fan kicks in, and I'll show you the green light, and I'll do another couple of tests as well, just to show you. But at the moment, say rad is in, all the hoses are on, the whole thing's full of water, and we've just cranked up the engine and got it up to temperature. Okay, so you can see the temps working its way up now. We've got the car in the garage in the rain, with the garage door open obviously for the exhaust. It's been running about 10 minutes, so hopefully when it gets up to normal, starts getting a bit hot, the new fan will kick in and I'll be able to show you the little green light coming on there. So we'll come back when that happens. Okay, so hopefully you can hear this better. I've now got the proper mic on. You can see what the temperature is down to now. Green light is still on because the fan is still running, but the air I'm feeling, the heat of this air here, is nothing like as hot as it was when I first felt it. When that fan kicked in, it really was pumping lots of warm air out. So it seems it's doing its job. It is actually physically cooling down. Okay, so that's about, I would say, another 3 minutes since the last bit of filming, and as you can see, the green light has now gone off. The fan has cut off temperature there, so there is enough power in the fan to physically cool it lower than the temperature it kicks in at, so that's good news. It's not just maintaining a temperature with it being on all the time, it actually does lower it. Okay, interesting experiment this. I've not tried it yet, but I am going to put a smoke bomb here at the front from the old gas board days and just check sort of like the flow of smoke through it. Okay, the fan has now kicked in. Let's see what this flow of smoke looks like. You can see it is being drawn towards the fan. Maybe if I hold it a bit closer. You can see there it's been drawn up inside through the top. It definitely works. I'm now going to unplug it and plug this one in. So as you can see, that's the new one, and again plenty of waft up here, so hopefully I'll be able to carry this somewhere as a spare. I'll unplug it and get the proper fan plug back in before it overheats. So just for curiosity, I've taped this little temperature probe here in the outlet of the fan. The fan is still running and you can see we're at 51 degrees. So that's showing 51 degrees C. It's dropped down to 50 now. What I'm going to do is leave it running till the fan cuts out and then show you again as soon as the fan cuts in, show you the difference in temperature and what temperature it drops to before the fan stops. It's about a minute later now and it's just maintaining a temperature of 50. Obviously not a totally accurate measurement of the engine temperature or anything, but it's just dropped another degree. So as soon as the fan cuts off, I'll immediately turn the camera on, show you what the temperature was, and then we'll see where it is when it cuts back in. Okay, again, about another 5 minutes in, I would say, with the fan running. We're down to 46, so hopefully it should shut off quite soon. Okay, I've lowered the revs. I forgot I still had it on a quick tick over to bring the fan on. So I've lowered them right down now, and it's down almost immediately to 39. Surprising how quick it responds to temperature as soon as you just drop them revs to a tick over. So we're at 39, so it should be cutting off pretty soon. Okay, so as you can see, I had to turn the engine off because the fan wasn't cutting out. It was maintaining the temperature was below normal on the gauge. But it wasn't dropping because it's quite a mildish day. I think it's about 16, 17 outside. And like I said, I was just waiting for it to cut out, and it wouldn't. So it was just maintaining the temperature. So I've had the engine off for half an hour, let it cool down. I'm now going to start it up, and I'm going to take a measurement of the air that's been pumped out from the fan when it kicks in, just to show you the how hot it does physically feel when it kicks in. And then I'm going to drain it all off again and fill it for the final time with antifreeze coolant. Okay, the fan has just kicked in. Yeah, it feels pretty warm there. So 58 degrees at the moment. Yeah, around about 58 degrees at the air temperature. That's, like I say, not the temperature the fan kicks in at. That's measured at the engine, the water at the engine, but that's just the heat of the air that the fan is pumping out now. It's pretty warm, isn't that? So something else I might do if on a long trip in the heat of summer is pull this shroud down here. As you can see, there's like a shroud press study there to stop engine heat going into the cabin. But there's no escape for it through the nose cone, because in the nose cone there's no scoop or anything to let any hot air out. The only way it can come out is down through the sides where the wishbones are. So what I might do is pull this down and just allow a bit more of a air gap through there. There's a bit here as well. Just give somewhere for that hot air to go. Okay, your legs might start getting a bit warm, but it might be a good idea. Okay, this is the final fill. So at the top of the radiator is this open end here. Now I've seen various things online on the internet. People have put different things on. It looked like somebody's put a thermostat in there, but on this it was this thing here. Now that is obviously supposed to stay in the thing. It's not threaded for a thread, this, but there was a Jubilee clip round and it's always been sound. There's been no leak, so I've re-PTFE'd that. The idea being that you could hold that and undo that and it act as a bleed, but you can't physically get at that because it's behind the chassis. So I'm going to put the whole thing in once I've filled it. But just to make sure the radiator gets filled, I've got, as you see here, this funnel in it here, this setup. So I'm going to pour the antifreeze solution down there, and it's going to go directly into there. So I've got the bottom hose back on, of course. I'm just going to pour, make sure the radiator itself gets full. I don't think there's any real need to do this, because when I filled up after it overheated on the motorway and I filled it with water at Halfords, I only filled it from the back and it made it home with the temperature as normal. So, but just to make sure there's no airlocks anywhere. Now this of course will be filling up all the pipes back there anyway, so I'm going to keep filling it from this direction. And then top it up finally at the back. Okay, so got that fitting in now as deep as it'll go up to the PTFE, and this Jubilee clip now is just over the plastic. As I said before, I know it's not designed, this plastic stub is designed to have a rubber hose go over it, but that's the way it was, like I said, when I got it. Got the car 15 years ago, and that's the way I presume it's been. It's 26 years, and it's been okay so far, so hopefully that should be okay. So that's as much water as I can get in there, so I'm going to carry on filling it up now at the back with the rest of this on the water. So I'll just squeeze this bit in here. I forgot to mention, as you saw in that smoke test, there is quite a lot of volume of air going through that rad, and when it first kicks in, it is very, very warm. It's quite hot, and as you saw, it's going through a fair velocity, and that'll just bounce off the roof of the nose cone once it's in place. Obviously all them tests were done without the nose cone, so plenty of room for it to escape. With the nose cone in place, it's going to sort of like hit the top of it and build up around there, and the only escape route is out through the two sides around the wishbones. So it'd be great if there was some sort of like air outlet scoop on top of the nose cone. Now obviously that would spoil the beautiful looks of the Scorpion, but if you're ever contemplating doing any bodywork, or you're doing it anyway, maybe, you know, a long slit of a narrow sort of scoop laying backwards would be a good idea, just to let that quite a bit of volume of air out. It'd also make a great defroster for any ice on the outside of the windscreen. But yeah, it did surprise me, an amount of air and the lack of sort of escape route for it. Okay, so it's had its final fill now. I'm not showing you any close-ups of the radiator installed so far. So, like I said, I didn't actually film me fitting it, because I'd have just got in the way of the camera anyway. But you'll see it now with the brand new bobbins on at the bottom and at the top. And as I mentioned, originally there was a wafer thin bracket came out that held the bobbin to raise the fan up, and that had snapped off, enabling the front to go down. So I don't know how long ago that had happened, but the fan might have been jumping around a bit. So I've made a new bracket, much thicker, about 3mm alloy, and I've riveted that to the chassis member and bent it round, and then put the bobbin on, and it's absolutely solid, as you'll see now. So let's have a look at that now. Okay, so the new fan is now in. I don't know if you can see there, we've got brand new bobbins in there. That's the bottom left, and there's the bottom right, and top left and top right. That's the XT60 plug there. You can see where I'm storing the spare fan. It's there, it's not in the way of any airflow. It's right down there, tucked back in. I'll show you underneath now. So that's it from underneath, and that's absolutely solid. I just cannot move that. It's on with 2 tie wraps there, 2 tie wraps there, 2 tie wraps there, 2 at the top, so 8 tie wraps. Absolutely solid. It weighs hardly anything anyway, and like I say, that's there for anybody who needs it on any trips. That's the bottom hose there.
It's a bit hard to see there, but that's where I cut the fiberglass round to give me more clearance to get to that Jubilee clip. See a bit clearer there. Just a chunk out of there, and you can see there this alloy bracket I made. That's on with 3 rivets. It's sort of quite a thick alloy. It's about 3mm thick, I think, to support the front of the rad on a bobbin there. The front of the fan. You see this fan, it's like a stainless steel. I thought it was alloy, but it says in the book stainless steel framework around that, and that's pretty solid now. So I decided to put the 2 horns, 2 Fiam electromagnetic horns. These are incredibly loud, particularly together. Decided to put them back where they were, and I've just got this relay to rivet in place now, back in place, and that's it, riveted in place now. And I'll just show you a new thing I fitted at the back. So I just thought I'd treat it to a new radiator cap. You can see this is pretty worn. It'll be the original one. I did want one with a gauge on the front. I've seen them on Amazon and eBay with a temperature gauge, but they just seem to be the smaller size. So that's the new one in place. And one unrelated thing I'll show you.
So that's it, job just about done. But while I've got the back off the car, I'll just show you this bit. It's nothing to do with the main gist of this video, the fitting of the fan, but it just shows you the battery I've currently got fitted and the 4 switches in more detail at the front. Now the battery, I've gone through quite a few batteries. One of them in 2014 in the Euro trip in France sticks in my mind. Everybody will remember that, who was on the Euro trip, Pete, Stan and everybody. It packed in on one of the hottest days of the year at the end of a motorway on a toll booth in France, and we had to go looking for another battery. Since then, it just seemed to eat them much more than a car has ever done, even though I'm on an Optimate at night. But since I fitted this big chunkier battery, and it's the old lead acid type, it's not gel, which is no trouble whatsoever, but it spins the engine over much quicker than the other ones did. So if you did want to go up in size, physical size and capacity of battery, this is a good idea if you can get it for the right price like I did. You won't get it as cheap as I did brand new, which you'll see in a minute, but you can physically fit that size up battery by just extending the base piece out with a bit of alloy or a bit of metal or even a bit of wood. But it will fit in there, and the tail cone has got plenty of room around it. So let's have a look at my battery installation now. This is the battery I fitted. I've had quite a few batteries. They seem to last 2 or 3 years with me and then pack up, and I usually have the slimmer type, the ones that are about that wide. But I saw this in 2021, 2 years ago, April 21, bought from Halfords, down from 75 quid, got it written on here, to 10 quid. They were selling it in the sale for 10 quid. It's a genuine UASSY. It's a conventional sealed lead acid, so you've got to top it up every now and then with water. And it's 12 volt, 28 amps, and 180 cold cranking amps. And like I said, that's the model number if you want to sort of have a look. Obviously you won't get it for 10 quid, but they were having a sale on old battery, well, old stock batteries. But yeah, and it absolutely spins it over brilliantly, much better than the smaller size. So I'll show you the normal size I used to have. So that's the last one I had, 20 amp, that one, full bat. And that was fitted the 11th of July 18 from all batteries, 37 quid. You can see all that, 6-month guarantee. I always write the date on the batteries, so you know, 3 years that was on, and it was showing signs of sort of going, even though I keep it topped up all the time. And I still use this, plug it in this every night,
24/7. It's on this Optimate. It's an old original one, but it still works. So, yep, that helps keep the battery in good condition when the car's not being used.
So yeah, definitely recommend one of those batteries. Right, well, let's see now, just a final run, and I go through them show you the indicator light coming on again and go through them 4 switches I mentioned earlier on. Yeah, a few years ago now, it must be 6 or 7 years ago, I fitted a little radio right down in the footwell, and it's pretty good. 2 Pioneer speakers, it sounds quite loud. I can play music from a USB stick. It's FM, don't think it's DAB, no, it's FM, AM. I've got an aerial amplifier in the boot and a little aerial on the back, and it's absolutely fine. You could play your phone through it and stuff like that. Also, I've got a separate switch, all fed by one big green switch on the left-hand side, a master switch, which is very similar design to the starter button, so nothing looks out of place. I don't think I've spoiled the dash at all. Some Scorpions I've seen in the States have got gizmos all over, and it ruins them in my mind. But I've not spoiled the clean looks at all, I don't think. And I've put these 4 switches, one for the sat-nav, one for the radio, one for the aerial amplifier, and one for a separate USB supply that I put in the boot to feed a camera, an action camera years ago. And then the 2 top ones above are the fog light, and it used to be the fuel pump switch. Well, I converted that to, I don't use the switch, I just use the red LED within the switch to show when the hydraulic brake switches come on. Again, I've had about 3 hydraulic brake switches. I was stopped by the police once and says, "Oh, you've no stop lights." And it wasn't until you press really hard on the foot pedal that the lights were coming on, because the light is switched by a little hydraulic switch in the brake fluid pipe. It's not a physical switch under the pedal like most cars. So they do get worn, this switch, and they only come on when you really hammer down on them. So I've got a light on so that when I put the brake on, I can see this little light come on, and I know my brake lights are on. So let's have a look at them now, and then we'll do a final summing up.
Okay, so as you can see, you can hear me over the engine, it's kicked in now at just under halfway on the thing. You can see that's easily visible. All my other lights I've got are here. They're turned on by the master switch over here. And then I've got, and there you can see what them are for. The 4 bottom ones are green radio, yellow the sat nav, red the aerial amplifier in the boot, and the blue is the USB boot supply. That's them 4. The radio down there, see it? Radio, I play music from USB. And this one is the fog lights. And that one comes on when I press the brakes. It tests the brake pedal, the brake switch.
Okay, so finally we reached the end. I'm sorry it's been so long. It's a full hour, but I did want to be as detailed as I could. I needn't have put the battery and the switches in the end, I know, but they may be of interest to some. So yeah, to finally sum up, if your fan goes, you can buy just that motor. Like I said, that's the bracket that it came with. You can take that off and get it from Ribblesdale Auto Electrics for 48 instead of BMW Motorworks for 75, or go with the uprated one. They say it's a more powerful motor. Felt about the same to me, and it says it's more CFM, so that's cubic feet per minute of air coming out. Again, I couldn't measure them, but I could have done. I could have got my anemometer, but it's getting too intense. But yeah, I suppose the old one fettled up would have been good enough. It's been good enough for 26 years, and that'll outlast me. But so I went with the uprated one, and I'm happy about that. And like I say, I know it's overkill carrying that other one round as a spare, but it's pointless it sat back in the garage, because if I was out and about and it packed up the new one, which is possible, I mean, hopefully it won't, but new things can still break. And if you were on a mega trip away from home or even in Europe, I've got that spare one lashed to the bottom. It's totally out of the way. It's not doing any harm in there. It's protected enough from the weather. I've taped it all up at the back. It's 8 hefty tie wraps on it. It's going nowhere. And if anybody breaks down in my convoy, there's a spare radiator fan there for them. So yeah, I'm glad I'm carrying that around. I suppose another good spare to carry around would be a little fuel pump, the one that goes dead easy to get at. Don't take up much room in the boot, but where do you stop carrying spares? But I wish I'd had a spare the other weekend. So stay tuned for my report on the RAC's unbelievably service that I received. I've just got the compensation £50 cheque. Yeah, a cheque. How do I pay a cheque into the bank? I think you can do it through some hole in the walls, can't you? I don't know, but it's years since I've had a cheque. Why couldn't they put it direct to my thing? But yeah, they've given me 50 quid compensation. I felt like telling them where to put it like, but yeah, I'll take that, but I'm still going to be have a recovery service with somebody else. So I hope this has been of some use. I hope to get out, any of you Scorpion owners watching this, I hope to get out on a trip maybe this year. The year's running out now, and I don't think there's any more trips combined, but I'll have a couple of local trips, but who knows, we may be in for a meet-up sometime this year. So hopefully this has been of some use for you, and to any of me regular viewers who have actually watched this and subscribers, I shall catch you for the next Back to Normal review very, very soon. Thanks for watching this one. Bye for now.